What's going on, guys, and welcome to March's episode of Plus Club, the show where we play the games offered on PlayStation Plus throughout the month, and at the end of the month we talk about it. My name's Seth, and joining me, of course, today is Chevy. Chevy, how you doing, and are you excited to talk about Dragon Age The Veilguard, Sonic Colors Ultimate, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles The Cowabunga Collection, and find out what we'll be playing in April?
I'm doing good. As far as my day, at least today, I actually was somewhat productive in the sphere of gaming. Final Fantasy's update came out, Final Fantasy 14 to be specific, and I was able to knock all that out today. So
Nice.
But otherwise been just working and coming home and playing what I can. So including the Plus games when I can. So
Yeah, I almost only played the Plus games and Game of the Month this month. I didn't really deviate a whole lot outside of playing the finals, and then today I allowed myself to play a little bit of 33 Immortals because I had to get Game Pass because they had an exclusive thing over on that for the finals. And so while I'm paying for it, I might as well try out the games they have over there. And that game's kind of neat. But yeah, I've been basically only playing these games this month.
That was like the first half of the month for me.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Cool. I'm doing well as well. I've been anticipating this conversation just because I posted a TikTok about it and people seem to be interested in my review of it, which I appreciate, people even giving a fuck. But I also know there's like a lot of controversy around Dragon Age The Veilguard, so discussing it will be fun for me just because I have a lot of opinions on it. And I don't know if I'll make either side of that conversation happy. So hopefully people watching are here for a nuanced conversation. And then also have a lot to say on the other two games. So it was a really interesting month. But yeah, ready to talk about it. But before we do that, let's talk about the games that are coming out in April. And those are RoboCop Rogue City. Very ironic. I'll tell you guys why in a sec. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and a game I don't want to say the name of ever again. It's Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth Hacker's Memory. I'm probably, for the rest of the month, just going to call it Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth. Although I looked it up, and apparently Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth was a game already. And this is Hacker's Memory of the Cyber Sleuth games. So maybe I should just call it Hacker's Memory?
Yeah, I think that'd probably be better.
Digimon Story Hacker's Memory? I don't know. We'll figure out throughout the month, but I'm not looking forward to saying that. And did you look up that game at all?
No.
It's basically a JRPG where you do turn-based combat, it seems, and capture and evolve Digimon.
Okay.
It kind of looked interesting, but it's a JRPG.
Okay.
So, what do you think?
I mean, I kind of wanted to play RoboCop anyway, so this is very convenient for me.
It's really weird for me, just hop in real quick, because we were going to do a taste cast, and then we had so many videos to react to that we just did multiple TLG reacts. Hopefully you guys had a chance to watch those. And in the time of finding out RoboCop was coming up for PlayStation Plus, I was getting ready to discuss my thoughts in detail of RoboCop because I picked it up for like $8 on sale on Steam, and I'm basically at the end of the game, and I was like, oh, this will be a fun game to kind of talk about on Tasty Cast. And then I saw it, and I'm like, oh, I can't talk about it at all now because I have to fucking review it at the end of April. So really kind of weird.
Yeah, weird timing for sure. But I mean, I remember even when it was first coming out, I thought it was kind of a weird pick and very faithful looking, which I had some concerns about because RoboCop's not the fastest dude. So
you get a speed walk and a dash.
Yeah, but I'm curious to check it out for sure. We've both technically played Texas Chainsaw Massacre, so that'll be a refresher because I have a terrible memory. So
I am so excited to find out how it performs on console because I've had performance issues with it so many different times when I've played in the past.
Oof, yeah. And then I know almost nothing about Digimon. I didn't watch Digimon. I don't think I've ever played a Digimon game. I'm aware of what Digimon is to an extent. And then, this series I'm very ignorant on as well. Other than
Digital Pokemon.
I don't know if it's quite that, but
that's what I think of it.
But I like JRPGs and monster catching games. So I have a I have good feeling that I'll find some enjoyment out of it. So
Yeah, I'm pretty easily satisfied with most JRPGs because they all have systems that I typically like. I like leveling up in games. I like getting stronger. I like equipping stuff that makes me different. And even though I don't really play Pokemon, I do like the idea of capturing new, basically characters,
or recruiting, if you
recruiting
want to use that instead.
new
Yeah.
party members, all that kind of stuff, and getting like a new, digital Pikachu or whatever, and being able to
Digichew.
Digivolve it or whatever sounds interesting to me. So honestly, I am kind of looking forward to this game. I do think it's a PS4 game,
Yep.
but yeah, it says right there. But yeah, like I said, when I looked this up, it said it's a sequel or it's part of the same series as the original Cyber Sleuth game. So if you know and I sound like I don't know what I'm talking about, I don't. That's what I got out of it, though. I am kind of excited to revisit the Texas Chainsaw Massacre because I assume that game was dead. And if it is, it's probably going to get a quick little bump in April, which will be the perfect time for us to play it. I have played it extensively, though. I could review it right now. But I am looking forward to playing it on PS5 and seeing how it plays. And then RoboCop is going to be really interesting for me because I'm probably going to just beat it on PC, and then I'm probably going to play it and see how it plays on PS5.
Yeah.
Get some early in-game footage, so no spoilers, and then be able to discuss it in full. I will be really curious to see what you think of it, though. And I just have to not talk about it anymore because for a while they're on like TikTok and even over on YouTube, I was making shorts and stuff about it. Now I'm like, I just need to shut up because now I have to review it. So got kind of shut down there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to Tuesday to try these games out. So you got anything else?
Nope.
All right, let us know in the comments below. What do you guys think about these games coming out in April? Are you excited, not excited? Any game in particular you're most excited for? And what games would you like to see come out on PlayStation Plus? Because everybody's got their opinions on what they think should be on PlayStation Plus. Let us know in the comments below. All right, so let's talk about the games we did play in March. And I keep forgetting it's like that March is a month and it exists. Every time I go to think what month we're in, I'm like January, February, April. My brain's not working. Yeah, the games we played were Dragon Age The Veilguard, Sonic Colors Ultimate, and TMNT The Cowabunga Collection. I think we should probably start with Sonic Colors Ultimate. If you can get a chance to play Sonic Colors Ultimate, I believe this was a game that came out on, was it the Wii or Wii U? I don't remember. I think it's like 2010 or something. It originally came out, the original Sonic Colors, in which you play as Sonic. There's a story that I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to, but it has all the major beats of a 3D Sonic you would expect. It's got 2D perspective Sonic running around loop-de-loops and jumping around. It's got the more 3D Dreamcast era gameplay where you're running forward and kind of like dodging things left and right and jumping. It has a new, well, I don't know if it's new to the series or not, but in this game, I've never played one that had it. It has like wisps that have like their own abilities. One I can think of off the top of my head is like you can like teleport around through these crystals at like the speed of light and kind of go through the map real quick. It has multiple maps, a bunch of stuff to collect. You can choose what worlds you go to as you finish them. And yeah, it's a Sonic game that came out a while ago, I guess. I didn't even know that when I played
There's been
it.
a lot of context to my experience, actually. So
Yeah, I had a thought about it, and this is similar to, I think, last month. Then I found out it's like a game from a while ago. I'm like, oh, okay, that makes
Yeah.
sense. So we both played it. Let's start with your impressions of Sonic Colors Ultimate. Nailed it in March.
but almost didn't nail that part.
Yeah, almost said February. I don't know what the fuck. What's up with March? Anyway.
Yeah, so just for, I guess, transparency's sake, I only did 2 worlds, and then I figured I had it at that point. So when I shut it off, you take that for, or how you will. Yeah, so, playing it, it was definitely a very familiar feeling, which was, convenient because it was easy to hop in and just kind of play. Game, I think, does a pretty good job of like explaining the mechanics and stuff like that when you play it as well, which I appreciate. The map design, although you're basically on a roller coaster, I kind of expect that, and I thought they did a pretty good job with like the different like scenery and like the courses, or they're like it's very like imaginative, like the kind of stuff you go through, which was nice. The I think the biggest complaint I'm going to have about this is the whole time I was playing it, the controls feel kind of bad. I feel like there's a slight delay to movement, and I also somehow simultaneously it feels sticky, and I don't know. It's really interesting to me because like sometimes, especially in like the straight courses, right? It doesn't feel too sticky, but like I feel like there's delays, and so when I go to make like adjustments to move, I feel like it was happening after I would put the input in, and so I was having to like adjust, and so it didn't feel too good to me. And then the courses where obviously it is going to be sticky because you have to like bounce back and forth, but I felt like you really didn't want to like move off of your rails when it came to moving left and right. And so a lot of my problems with playing it came to I didn't feel like I could be like very reactive with the game. I almost had to be like planning ahead a lot to do my movements, and that felt really weird. So it wasn't like unplayable, but I definitely noticed that it felt funny when I was playing it.
So the thing I was going to complain about is that when you jump, when you're in the air, it feels floaty. It's not a tight platformer, and I can't even remember because I haven't played like Sonic Adventure or whatever the hell from back in the day. I haven't played any of those in recent time, but those are old games, and I guess this is too. But the whole time I was playing, I'm like thinking of like everything about it that I want to talk about, but the whole time I'm like, man, if this was like less floaty, I feel like it'd like really improve the platforming nature of it. It doesn't have to be like the tightest in gameplay, but like I just felt like every time I left the ground, I was just kind of like,
I do feel like it needs tightened up though.
Yeah, it's like I don't know. It just didn't feel good. And then the motion, I don't know if I felt a delay in it, but that also kind of felt floaty, especially when you're running forward and you're kind of pressing. Kind of feels like it just doesn't feel as responsive as I would like it to. And I guess if it's an old game, there is that. But I don't know. There's games back on PS2, I don't know, like older games that felt tighter than this. So I don't know what's up with it. But yeah, I didn't like the movement either.
Yeah, it was the biggest complaint, which sucks because it's like, kind of like what Sonic does, is move. So,
and a lot of these 3D Sonic games are basically interactive roller coasters, as you kind of said with the roller coaster thing. It's just like go forward and then like auto lock on.
Yeah, and
enemies.
That part works fine when you like dash in enemies. You home right into them.
It's kind of can't like work bad because you just jump and then press jump again and you're hitting everything. But in a game that feels like pretty automated almost, it is kind of weird that the movement just kind of like they need to nail that. At the one part of the game that has interaction, it needs to feel better, I guess.
Yeah. Other than that, like some of the stages had like some their own little shticks and stuff like that, and I thought that was also kind of fun. I know obviously everyone starts with the first world, but me and you happened to pick I believe in our when we kind of talked about it, different second worlds. I went to a cake or sweets.
It's like a candy land
world, yeah, and it was definitely very different from the first world, and a lot of the courses had a lot of different ways to go, which was kind of cool. But I also noticed, I don't know if it's for replayability's sake, there were some courses that were obviously there but I couldn't access, and so I don't know, or maybe I just didn't do something early in the map. I don't know. I was kind of like just bombing through the game as fast as I could to try it out. So I don't really have any boss fights. I guess I should touch on that real quick, and then I think I'll be done. The boss fights they're okay. I think again this is going to be a control issue with the game. I feel like when I was trying to dodge certain attacks, I was just kind of like struggling with the movement aspect of it, but figuring out like the boss's weaknesses and like the gimmick of the fight, simple enough. Obviously, it's not going to be overly complicated, but it was fun. It did remind me of old platformers in that regard. And again, if the controls were a little tighter, I think I actually would have enjoyed it quite a bit. So, I mean, overall, I had a pretty okay experience. I didn't love the game, but I do think I would have liked it a little more had I enjoyed actually playing it. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how much I can really say on this game. So I'll just kind of go down the list in my head of what I'm thinking. The graphics I think are clean. I didn't know this was a game from the Wii. I knew that there was a Sonic Colors before, but I didn't know if this was another one in the series, kind of like that Cyber Sleuth game, or if it was a remaster, remake, whatever. I didn't really do the research, but I thought it looked pretty decent. It definitely looks older in the design of everything, but it's pretty clean looking. So I liked that. The music was decent. I didn't pay attention to the story because I was I don't really care what's going on with Sonic in this game, but it had full-fledged cutscenes, which I appreciated as much as I could. The voice acting was about as much as I was expecting from Sonic. I did like that you had a choice in worlds once you beat the first area. Wasn't expecting that. I don't remember what I picked. It was a city or something, some kind of sci-fi place. But the location was completely different than the first area, so the locations are varied. I've seen the area you're in, and it's definitely different than what I went to.
Also, the boss was very different in that from the first one too.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. I'm glad you brought up the boss because I think the bosses were interesting. They did take me back to even old school Sonic, where you just have to hit him a couple times to beat him.
Yeah, you just have to get around the mechanic.
But you have to figure out the fight, and so I kind of liked that. That felt like the most thinking I had to do in the game, because otherwise you're just kind of going fast, which you want to do in a Sonic game. You're reacting to stuff, although I think most of the stuff's pretty easy. I didn't get super far in the game though. Maybe it gets more challenging, maybe it doesn't. It's fine, doesn't need to. It's just Sonic, it's supposed to be fun. But yeah, bosses were cool. I was impressed with how many levels were in each world.
Yeah, it's
because
quite a bit.
the levels are, because you have to run fast, are long. They go on for a while, so I have to make these huge drawn out maps, which I am still impressed by even today, with just running through a huge map that you're spending milliseconds, and most of it you're just flying by it. And a lot of them do some neat stuff. I think the wisp system, I didn't run into any wisps that I was super into as a power-up. I guess I'm maybe traditional and just enjoy the older ones, but you have to eventually in Sonic create something new. That you can't always just be, Fire Sonic and Invincible Sonic, stuff like that. So, yeah, they were okay. Although, I don't know why, it's the only one I can remember. Oh, there's one where you can dig, I think. I don't remember. But the one where you go through the crystals, it was kind of neat, but it also felt kind of automated. You just turn it on, aim, and then go and fly through it. And it's visually stimulating, I guess. But gameplay wise, it was whatever. And then yeah, my biggest problem with the whole game was just how floaty it felt. I felt like I would have been more interested to keep playing it, because I wasn't having a bad time playing it. But I think I would have been more interested in playing it further if the platforming felt better. And one problem I've had with a lot of the 3D Sonics, and this is definitely, in my opinion, one of the better of the 3D Sonics I've played in recent time, is so much of it feels automated, from your lock on, hitting everyone as you go through. You don't really have to think about it. And I guess at that speed it'd be hard, I guess, to stop and jump at people, but that feels automated. Then there's a lot of rail sliding, which feels automated. A lot of just running forward and watching Sonic go on loop-de-loops. That feels automated, but just when you are controlling them outside of all those automated sections, it just feels really bad. There's parts where I'm running fast, and then there's a part where it wants me to jump up a couple things, and I go to do that, and it just feels weird and clunky and floaty, and I'm
the flow just
kind of breaks the flow.
Yeah.
I'm running fast, I'm flying around stuff, and then I'm jumping around weird, and I don't know. I wasn't a fan of it. So I think that's my only major complaint, though. The rest of the game feels like a completely competent 3D Sonic. Mm-hmm. It's not the worst 3D Sonic I've played. I wish I wanted to play it further than I did. I played for a couple hours, but yeah, I really didn't like the way it felt. So yeah, I think that's my biggest complaint. I think that's all I got.
Yeah,
game's fine though. Otherwise,
similar experiences.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's my thoughts. Got anything else?
Nope.
All right, let's jump into recommendations. I would recommend it to Sonic fans, but
played it.
but if you're a Sonic fan, you played it. Yeah. Considering when I looked up some stuff about the game to find out if it was like a remake and stuff, people seem to really like this game, so that's great. I'm glad Sonic fans liked it. If you like platformers and you've played so many and you just need another one, I would loosely recommend it to you. It's not the tightest platformer, but it does have visual flair as you're playing it. You're not going to be... I don't think you'd be bored playing it.
I wasn't.
Yeah. If you have kids, I think they might dig it. I think these newer 3D Sonic games, because of how automated they feel, I think would be easy to grasp for somebody who either is a kid or somebody who just like doesn't want to think too much while they're playing. Like maybe like you got off work, you're like, I just want to fucking play something, but I don't really want to be too into it.
Too many drinks.
Yeah, or yeah, maybe you're just completely fucking wasted. And you're like, this is the only game I can play right now. I would recommend it to you and kids. Same thing. And yeah, typical stuff. Like if you're somebody who likes to go through worlds and games and make sure you get everything done, you want to increase your score and do it the best you can. This game's gonna feed that for you. So
it definitely would be good for completionists because it has every world has like how many items are left and how many you got and stuff like that too. So there's a checklist for you. Yeah.
So for people like that, you'll love it. And then last, I'd recommend it to furries because furries love Sonic.
Fair.
Which is fun. Yeah, so let's grade it. I'll grade it first. Okay. Oh, did you have recommendations?
No,
I just figured I nailed it all, so you need to...
Wow, and I gave my input during it. So.
Yeah. Fuck, what am I going to grade it? I don't know. I'm going to give it a really, really strong C+. I wasn't bored playing it. I didn't like the movement in it, but it was fine. It was a fine platformer. And for Sonic, there's some pretty bad 3D Sonics out there that I would definitely give a pretty bad grade to. So, yeah, I'm feeling C+. It wasn't B territory for me. But it's fine. So, yeah, C+.
We absolutely had the same exact experience, apparently, because I'm also going to give it a C+. I do feel like it would be an easy B game if the controls were better.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing. Like you described it differently, and maybe that's how you experienced it. But like I also experienced something where I was like, I don't like moving in this game. But it's mostly when I jumped. Every time I left the ground, I was like, ugh. It just felt like back. It's
well, you're on rails when you're not in the air. So
yeah. But it reminded me of like, and this is an old game, but is it Ghouls and Ghosts or Ghouls and Goblins? The original one, the very original one for like NES. When you jump in that game, it is
that's what you're doing.
Up to God where you land at that point. You choose when to jump and the trajectory has been set. You do not have air control. And that shit is fucking crazy to return to as a modern gamer. Yeah. This isn't that bad, but it is a game where I'm like, I don't want to jump.
Yeah.
I don't want to leave the fucking ground, but sometimes you have to. So, yeah. All right, so 2 C+. Game's fine. Check it out.
Yeah, it's fine.
Let us know in the comments what do you guys think about Sonic Colors Ultimate. Maybe you're a big Sonic fan. What do you think about it from that POV? From other Sonic games, how would you rate it? Is it one of the better ones, the worst ones, an okay one? And maybe dislike the game. Maybe there's some things you really hated about it. Let us know everything you think about in the comments below when it comes to Sonic Colors Ultimate. And if you know what the difference between Colors and Ultimate is, it's just like more stages or something, let me know. Maybe you're passionate and you're like, you didn't even mention what's different. I don't know.
It has 2 more colors.
Yeah. Got a couple more colors in it. All right, next game we played in March. I remembered at that time. is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: The Cowabunga Collection. If you didn't get a chance to play TMNT The Cowabunga Collection, it is a collection of retro Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle games. I believe it's like 13
It's a lot, yeah.
different games. From Game Boy to NES to Super Nintendo to arcade to Sega Genesis. There are duplicate games in this collection. Sometimes you'll have the exact same game, but you have it on the different consoles it came out on. So maybe you have one you wanted to play. I think it also are from specific consoles that probably have the differences they had back then, because back then, for some reason, games on different consoles had differences. And it also has the Japanese versions of some of these games. It has some of the games have multiplayer online. Any of them that have multiplayer, you can play same screen, but there is an online component. There are cheats you can turn on for certain games. Every game has different things you can activate for it that probably are things you could have probably done anyway back in the day with a code, but now they just streamline that. There's filters you can put over the games too to make them look like old school TVs or whatever. One thing that I'll just say I thought was impressive, even though I shouldn't be jumping into my thoughts already, is it has all the manuals to all the games. It has screenshots from every single season of the TV show. It has concept art. It has music from every single game. It has a bunch of stuff in a section that just kind of celebrates all of the games that came out back then. And what else am I missing? Yeah, there's an arcade game. There's the side-scrolling games. There's the fighting game that I forgot existed that I played first and got my ass kicked in. And yeah, just all the old-school Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle games in one package. We both played it, and I go first, I believe. Okay, so I'm just going to say it. I was pretty impressed with this collection. Outside of, I think my only complaint in the whole collection, I'll get out of the way right now, some of the titles of games didn't correspond with the picture sometimes. It would say the title at the bottom of what game I was picking, but then the box art was a different game. And I don't know what the fuck was up with that. Other than that, I was very impressed with this collection. In fact, so impressed with it that I feel like if anyone's going to release collections for their games, they should follow this model. They have a shitload of games. They give you, even though it doesn't matter to me, but maybe to a collector, it is a collection. To have access to the Japanese version, the English version, the Super Nintendo version of the exact same game you're playing for Sega Genesis. Maybe you grew up with the Sega Genesis and you want to play that version. That's really cool. That feels like a collector thing. Also, I forgot the name of it, but like the section where you can go through like the actual manuals that came with the games is collector shit. Like it's got so much little thing. I'm not a big collector guy, but to be able to go through and kind of like look at that stuff gave me a lot of nostalgia. I appreciated the effort behind the people who is it Konami? I think this is a Konami. Yeah. Definitely one of the better things Konami's done. But it just feels like there's effort in this collection. It doesn't feel like, well, here's a couple games. Here's 3 games. That's the collection. So I was really impressed with that aspect. I went through and played at least one version of every game just to kind of get a feel for these old games. I've played most of these, if not all of them, at some point in my life. So it's kind of fun to go back and see just how fucking hard these games were. I played the fighting game, and I just was like, I don't think I was a big fan of this back in the day, and I'm definitely not a fan of it now. I'm a fan that's in the collection, but it as a fighting game, there's a reason why Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat are still around and this isn't. It's really sticky, it's stiff. The AI is relentless, has zero mercy. It just is. Whoever designed that game was like, destroy the person playing the game. And so I got my ass kicked. And also, we'll just spam the same attacks over and over and over again, which felt really cheesy. But
old fighting game scripts were pretty rough.
Yeah, but some of them weren't as bad as this. It's kind of funny how like a lot of the ones that didn't continue on were like really bad with that. And then like, Street Fighter 2 or whatever, sometimes it felt like they would get stuck in a script of like just kind of repeating, but then they'll stop.
Oh, dude, I remember Ryu just doing fireballs nonstop. I'm like, bro, come on.
Yeah. Yeah, they can get kind of stuck in a script like that, but this was like it's like every enemy was just like I have to kill you, and it's like what was this fucking solo leveling? So yeah, I played the fighting game. That was fun to reminisce with. I played the arcade game, which was really cool because it's set up like an arcade game. You have to put coins in, but you can just hit start and just get coins. And I just mashed that button. I think I had like 160 fucking coins in, but it's kind of cool to play an arcade game. Yeah, I was rolling. It was kind of cool to just like not have to worry about losing like my actual real money because the game's designed to kill me quickly in the arcade, so I have to keep putting quarters in and just actually get to experience an arcade game as a video game and not as a gamble, I guess. And the arcade game I played was actually pretty fun. It felt there's a couple Ninja Turtles beat 'em ups that already existed, but this arcade game is like that, except for you can definitely tell because of at the time the arcade machine probably was more powerful than like a Sega or a Nintendo. The animations are like way smoother and more animated. They look really rubbery, but like I was kind of impressed with like how good they looked for like that old of a game. And then the controls and the motion felt really good as well. It didn't feel like Sonic Colors Ultimate. Yeah, played through that for a while. Every time I got killed by a boss, I was like, man, this is where I would just stop putting coins in the machine. But I had like 160. I was good to go. So that was fun. I played and you'll probably see the footage, but the Foot Clan one that was for Game Boy, I owned it when I was a kid. That was interesting to play because I remember when I was a kid, I played that a lot. And playing on like a 1x1 screen and you can't see ahead of you really, that's a fucking experience I completely forgot about. I'm 38. Apparently that memory has been wiped from my fucking memory because it is crazy to be 1/3 of the screen and people are in the air flying at you, attacking you, and you just have to like wait till they're visible and then react to it. In retrospect, it feels like a really unfair situation, but at the time that's what they could work with, so it's not like they were intentionally trying to be unfair, but that was fun to revisit. And then I played the one on Nintendo that's notoriously hard, but I forgot the name of all these games, but that was a lot of fun to revisit as well. All of them were fun to revisit, but it's just amazing how like all the Ninja Turtle games are just like hard as shit. I don't know what that was about. I guess a lot of games back then were in general, but
yeah, Battletoads was rough.
Oh, Battletoads is fucking already hard, but then if you play with Josh, it gets harder because he's your enemy as well. He starts beating your ass, and I'm just like, dude, stop attacking
strays.
me. Yep, he's fucking he's a brutal boy. Overall, though, I was really impressed with this Cowabunga collection. If I would have bought it, I would have been happy with that purchase. Getting it on here was really cool. I feel like if you didn't pick this up, but you were kind of curious about it and you got it, I assume you probably liked it because I was like, this is how collection should be. This feels like a celebration of their past in gaming. And I feel like somebody who wants all that, who wants to get all those games, would probably be happy with the extra stuff they added to it. That was really cool. So yeah, overall I really liked it. And my only thing I'm kind of upset about is we didn't play it multiplayer, and I would have liked to do that. And I still in the future would like to, I don't know, maybe get Josh, even though he'll attack me, get somebody play it with me because these games are always more fun to beat 'em ups in general are more fun to play with friends. But that was the one thing I was kind of missing. But yeah, only complaint I have for the whole collection is some weird stuff with the titles not matching the box art sometimes. So I don't know what the fuck that was about. Yep. Thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I feel like I would just be regurgitating a lot of what you just said. So I mean,
you disagree with anything I said?
Not really. The big things I think are impressive about this legal emulator essentially is that they took the time and care to make it decent, which is nice. The interface makes sense. You go through the catalog of games real easy. You could set up your your parameters, whether you want to cheat or not, or And then being able to revisit like an arcade game and just dump quarters in. The first game I even played was like, I think it was the NES one. That was a brawler game. I can't remember the name of any of them.
Is Turtles in Time the Super Nintendo one or the Nintendo one? Or maybe it's on both. I don't remember.
I don't know. This one you just kind of, I mean, there are probably a lot of them like this, but April, gets kidnapped and then you have to fight the, what are the names again? Is it like
the Foot Clan?
Rock and Lock or something like that, or the Boar and the
I just had their name, but they said Rock and Lock, and now it's wiped my memory.
Yeah. Anyways, you go against them, and then the brain and the robot. And,
it's right there.
Craig, is that the brain's name?
I don't know. I'm still trying to remember the other guys' names until you said Rock and Lock.
I don't know, man. Yeah, and then obviously eventually Shredder and all that. So.
Bebop and Rocksteady.
Bebop and Rocksteady. That
Jesus Christ! Okay, for anybody watching who's like, I can't believe you can't remember. I remembered. I just got thrown off.
I can't, but I don't remember anything.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, and that game, and games in general of that time, and I noticed the restrictions of the era in which it was made and the experience people had in game development, but. Holy crap, are those games not fair? I turned on God mode at one point because I just said, screw it, I'm going to beat one of these games. And I went through the whole game, but I wanted to pull my hair out by the end of it, and that's not the game's fault necessarily. It's literally an emulator of an old game, so I'm not going to give them crap for that at this point. But I spent a lot of time getting juggled in the later levels, and I was just thinking about if that would have been in an arcade, how much money that would cost to just get through, even today, or even back then.
Well, that's the problem with arcade games in general, though, is they want you to keep spending money because it's a business, and so they design the game to fuck you up.
Yeah, I mean, there's a give and take. They gotta give you something, but yeah.
Well, it's like when you play modern day arcade games. I always appreciate a game that just feels a little more fair, because some games I'll play, I'm like, oh my god, you're just trying to take my money.
Yeah.
And they all are trying to take your money, but some of them are going they gotta have fun though. They gotta want to come back to the machine.
For sure.
And so there's a balance, because there's some games I'm like, I'm not fucking playing that again.
Arcades weren't like that though.
Yeah.
They were just scamming you. So, but yeah, I appreciate that they even took the effort and the time to make, just to repeat myself, I guess, a legal emulator that is simple to use, because anyone who has emulator experience knows that sometimes, especially the older ones, it's a lot of jumping through hoops just to get a game to work. So they have gotten easier. Not that we are getting too into that, but this was a very nice experience. It's also, like you said, a good collection for specifically our age group, I would say. But I have a hard time believing that the younger you get, they're going to care about this at all. But
I assume that if somebody wants to emulate these games, they'll just do that. Nobody's going to buy this because they're looking for an emulation. I think they are looking just to have a collector's item. They're excited that somebody packaged together this collection of games that they loved when they were younger. So
and that they did it in a way that feels like they wanted to make it worth a damn. So But overall, I was impressed with it. I'm not super nostalgic about it, so I didn't stick around too long for it. But it was fun to revisit those games for sure.
Yeah. When it comes to arcade games, though, and feeling fair, shout out to Soul Calibur 2. You can play until you die, and I always, every time I play it, just play through and beat the boss. So I get a full campaign. So it feels fair. But I guess if you get your ass kicked in Soul Calibur, I guess then you gotta start paying. So, so I think that's everything. Let's jump into recommendations. I would recommend this to people who are into retro gaming, into Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, especially the old games. Anybody who's into brawlers and beat 'em ups.
Yeah.
Anybody who's into arcade gaming. I know there's some of you guys out there. People who are into collections, specifically Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle collections. If you're nostalgic for old school stuff, I mean, this has screenshots from the TV show. That's not the games, but they put in there anyway, so it's kind of neat. I think that's about it. Challenge. If you like challenging games, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle games are challenging. I'm sure anybody who's like played them over and over and over again knows like all the techniques. You know, they're not that hard, but like if you don't play them like regularly, or if you haven't played them in a long time like me, they're pretty hard games. So
Yeah.
You got any recommendations?
No, I honestly like I feel like there's not a large demographic for this, so it's definitely a nostalgia buy.
I feel like it's pretty large, but just only because there's so many TMNT fans.
Yeah.
But yeah, outside of that, yeah, maybe you're not going to sell. Like, I'm not a huge TMNT guy. That's why I never picked this up. But I'm happy I've played it. So, all right, grade it.
I mean, my enjoyment aside, it's a solid package. So, I can't really think of any major flaws with this. I'm going to go ahead and give it an A minus. It's exactly what it says it's going to be, and it functions very well. I think they cared enough to make it a decent package, which I think says a lot. So.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of like how much I want to dock it for like the weird typo thing that happened. I don't really care about that, but that should not be a thing. But I think I'm gonna give it a soft A. And that A is not like, maybe you're like, wow, that's fucking high. Like, I'm not grading it like I would grade like a God of War or something. Like, oh my God,
sure.
This is crazy. But like as a collection of old games,
for what it is,
this is like kind of leads the pack in my opinion. Like I feel like this is what collections should be. Most time when I get a collection of games, like you pay for a collection, it's like 2 fucking games, like nothing to it, and it's like, okay, I guess I have access to these now on my current console. This doesn't feel like that. This feels like a true celebration of these old school games. Like I was really kind of like stoked about all the stuff that was on this, and I'm like not a huge TMNT guy. I was when I was a kid, but not really anymore. And so I have to give it a high grade. Like the effort's there. It feels like people who actually love these older games wanted to produce something for people who love these older games. And so the passion's there, and I really appreciate it. So yeah, I'm gonna give it a soft A. I think it's a really good collection of games that are all fun to play. They're hard, they feel unfair, but they're old.
For sure.
That's just how it is. So yeah, I think it's fantastic as a collection. So yeah. Anything else?
Nope.
Let us know in the comments what you guys think about TMNT the Cowabunga collection. Did you play it? Did you not play it? If you didn't play it, why didn't you play it? And if you did play it, what did you like about it? What didn't you like about it? What were some of your favorite games on there? Least favorite games? Do you think they're hard? And what do you think about all the additional bonus features that they added on this? Do you appreciate that, or do you not care? And the question I have for everybody: what's a good collection? What's a collection that you would like? I'm sitting here praising this as a collection. Is there other good collections out there that you would recommend for any game? Just curious to see how other people handle it, because most of the collections I've bought in the past are like, they feel like bare minimum. So I think that's why I'm so impressed with this. So let me know everything you're thinking about in the comments below when it comes to TMNT the Cowabunga collection. Last game we played in March was Dragon Age The Veilguard. If you didn't get a chance to play Dragon Age The Veilguard, it is a BioWare story-centric action RPG where you play somebody called Rook who has to defeat some ancient evil. I'll just put it that way.
You have to save the world.
Yeah, you chosen one. You gotta save the world. It connects with past Dragon Age games to varying degrees, and yeah, it's a third-person action RPG, mostly an action system that does have the ability to pause the action and control your companions. It has companions. In combat, you can set them up to attack different enemies, the same enemy. You can also do this while you're in combat as well. So if you just want to play it more action-y, you can do that. If you want to play it kind of like an RPG, you can also pause it. And yeah, it is a cinematic story with companions who have their own quest lines, heroic quest lines. It has leveling, a pretty expansive skill tree, different classes to play. I think there's, 4? 3?
You starting classes?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's 4.
Yeah, 4 different starting classes with 3 different subclasses you can pick from via the skill tree. Gear for your for all your characters, weapons that you can upgrade, reputation choices. Even though I know a lot of people argue the choices don't matter in this game, but they are there. There are choices, especially in dialogue. You can pick how you want to talk if that makes you happy. Different locations, a lot of locations from the Dragon Age world and lore, and any major features that I'm missing here. There's like finishers, ultimates.
A very generous character creator.
A generous character creator that you guys are going to see not only my character, who basically looks like a hobbit, but you're going to see Chevy's character as well, who looks like Lord Farquaad from Shrek. So we, for some reason, both made really goofy looking characters. I made mine, I was like, oh, this is funny. And then Chevy's like, look at this. I'm like, oh, you made a fucking goofy looking character too. So you guys let us know in the comments who's goofier looking. Yeah. So we both played it. I actually beat it because I felt like I had to.
I wanted to, but
you wanted to. You got pretty far into it though, I believe. Do you know what level you got to?
I think I'm around 15.
15. Okay. And yeah, so I beat it. I won't be talking spoilers though, because I don't want to spoil it for him. I don't want to spoil it for you guys. If you would have beaten it, we could have maybe done some spoiler talk, but that's fine. We don't need to do that. It allows more people to hear this conversation if we don't talk spoilers. So I won't be talking too deep about, I guess, the story. But yeah, that's how far we got into it. Impressions.
Okay. Well, we're going to start with, I intend to finish this game still. So that'll be my start to that. So I think...
Yeah, I think you should.
Yeah. As far as it being a Dragon Age game, I know it technically is.
Before we hop into that, and just put a pin in that real fast, where do you stand when it comes to Dragon Age? Because I'm only a fan of the original Origins. Same. I wasn't a fan of 2. I thought Inquisition was fine.
It's fine, yeah.
I didn't love it, but I thought it was fine. So now you know kind of where we're coming from when it comes to our thoughts on this.
I like Origin.
Yeah.
2 was
Origin's
like
great.
Okay, but like was disappointing as well. And then Inquisition is not the same game anymore, but was fun enough. And then this is giving me a similar vibe where it's not the same game, but it's fun enough for what it is.
Yeah, this game feels like almost like a soft reboot of the brand name.
I think visually, I'm not a fan of design choices in this game. I think it looks on the cartoony side, which I'm not a fan of. That includes monster designs. There is at one point, I think it's actually in these cutscenes, it's not a story spoiler, but you run into an ogre at some point, and when I saw him, I was like, wow, he looks stupid. Like, visually looks awful. So I'm not a huge fan of the designs in the game. That being said, I do think the gameplay is fine. I know we've kind of had like some conversation before this, and I think one thing that I kind of agree with is that I think this should have been a different game. Like, the game itself could have existed, but I don't think it should have been Dragon Age. I think it should have been a new IP.
Yeah, I think, and I actually already made a TikTok on this. I think this game, I'm kind of confused about it. I feel like this game might have done better if it was its own license, or its own IP. Not license IP, just IP. But then a part of me is like, you throw the brand name on because you need it to guarantee it's going to sell a little bit, at the very least, even though this came out 4 months ago and it is now on PlayStation Plus. So that tells you a lot about the sales of it. But I think I would maybe respect it a little bit more if it was its own game, because it feels like its own game when you're playing it, but it has so much connective tissue with Dragon Age because it's got the lore, it's got the races, it's got the locations and stuff like that. It's got characters from past Dragon Ages, but outside of that, it has like its own visual aesthetic. It's got its own combat system.
Yeah.
And it's like a competent AAA action RPG. Yeah. So it's just interesting that it had to be Dragon Age, but I know they did that because they're like, we gotta sell it. It's people like Dragon Age. We're just gonna use the brand name. People pick it up based off that alone. Some people, not everybody, but But yeah, I'm curious about what the reception of this game would have been if it was just its own new IP.
Right. So I mean, to go back to like the graphics aspect of it real quick, when presented with the character creator, which is pretty decent, I'll give him credit for that. Regardless of your opinions of what's in that character creator, I'm very much of the mindset that more choices are good. You can pick whatever the hell you want and play the game however you want. Like, that's just how I feel about everything, basically.
Yeah.
But because of his visual style, I was inclined to make a goofy looking character because I didn't really respect the way the game looked. So
Yeah.
So the game started, and I was presented with my class choices. And I usually play like archers or mages in games. I went ahead and decided to go with like a sword and board build in this game, just to kind of try something a little different. I don't regret that decision. I actually think it is a pretty fun playing class. I wasn't like in love with the combat, but it was engaging enough that I didn't feel bored, which was nice. You have melee systems and range systems, I believe, for every class, and they can be intertwined and like spec'd into to increase the potency of one or both, depending on what kind of gear you pick. And I like choices, and the game presents that to you, which is great. It feels like a role-playing game, which is more than I can say for some action role-playing games. So you brought up skill tree. It's it's not like the craziest thing ever. Don't go in expecting Path of Exile, though you should never expect that. But it is full of choices and has 3 different pathways to advanced jobs or sub jobs, whatever term we want to use for that. And you can kind of lean into it. I was going towards a...
Did you say 2?
3.
Oh, okay. My brain's fucking broken.
I was heading towards... necrotic damage, I think is what it's called in the game.
Which is weird, because that's what I did, too.
Yeah, and what that did for me, though, was it allowed me to change the damage of my shield throw, which was my ranged weapon. It allowed me to have moves where I would, like, summon, like, a magical scythe to do like attacks with and stuff like that. It was very different feeling from the base, which felt very like traditional sword board. You see it in the video probably at some point. I'll have shields floating around my character. By the time I got to the point of the game I did get to, I didn't have that move anymore. I had replaced it with like earthquake on the ground, where like green smoke was coming out of it, and I was ripping holes through the ground and throwing green energy at people. It was very different. So kind of cool that I had that choice, and I didn't even see what the other 2 trees were like. It makes me curious to respec, because the game lets you.
I did respec. I tried out 2 of the 3, and
nice.
They're very different.
The VA work is fine. It's not bad. It's just not great, and there's some pretty cheesy dialogue in the game. I don't particularly think any of the characters are all that likable. I don't necessarily hate them, but I don't like them either, which is kind of a bummer.
I think I liked like one character.
Yeah.
What was his name? Lucanus?
The rogue?
Did you... No. Oh, wait. No, he is a rogue. Yeah.
Yeah. He's okay.
Yeah, he was the most interesting.
Yeah.
But I feel like he's supposed to be...
the most normal.
Yeah.
The rest of the characters kind of... I mean, they were fine. They didn't like drive me crazy, which I appreciate that as well. There are some games where I hate the characters. I didn't hate them, but I didn't care about them either, which kind of sucked. The locations were fine, though I wasn't nostalgic going to them, so I don't know if they nailed that for me or not.
Yeah.
Especially, there is a quest you do for one of the characters that makes you revisit, like, a place you go to pretty early in Origins, and I was just like, this doesn't feel the same. So
yeah. Also, it's kind of hard to nail that, because like one thing that when it came to like the locations and the world design of like how you explore it, it feels fairly linear. Even the open areas feel like a lot of just hallways.
Yeah.
It reminds me of God of War and Godfall, which is basically God of War. And so for like an action RPG that comes from where this comes from, it feels kind of deflating on like the world and exploring it, because it just feels like you're walking down like linear pathways, and then there's like one branching off to the left that might have like something at the end of it, which I appreciate has anything at all, but then you just go right back onto the main pathway. And so like if you're exploring a place that you remember from like prior games, it doesn't have the same kind of like vast world feel of like, I don't know. Everything feels kind of like a set. I don't know. It doesn't have the same vibe.
Yeah. Let's see. The hub, I'll call it, where you and your companions hang out, is a neat little location. Has customizable stuff, which I appreciate. Your room, you can find like decorations and stuff like that for, and they can be themed off different races and stuff like that. Like I have a statue in like the main hall that I switched over to an elven type one because my character is an elf, and so it changed from like, you know, this like real serious statue to like a more like smaller like deer type with some floating bits, and it was cool looking. I
was actually surprised to see you could even decorate stuff in the game.
Yeah,
like it's completely unneeded, but I was like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I love stuff like that because
Yeah.
it lets you put your personality into the game a little bit.
And it's a way to show off things you've collected throughout the game, because as you're playing, you'll find stuff and you're like, oh, I can go put that up somewhere. So
Yeah.
it kind of like shows your progress and where you've been, what you've done.
Let's see. The game has pretty decent puzzles. They're not like too difficult to the point where you're spending a lot of time on them. They're pretty easy to figure out, which is nice.
I almost forgot that there's puzzles in the game. It's
Yeah.
probably because they're really simple, and that's
Yeah.
fine because I don't like puzzles in games because it feels like it always ruins the flow of the game for me when I have to stop and figure something out, and then I never feel like accomplished when I finish the puzzle. And I know a lot of people like them, and that's fine. But for me, I'm like, I beat them, like, okay, cool, now I can keep going.
Yeah.
But in this, it was like they were like pretty straightforward, so I kind of appreciated. Like they are like kind of like lame and
it's basically
brainless,
busy
but.
work.
But yeah, I would knock it out quick and just continue. I'm like, okay, thank you, because the only thing I care about is like leveling up and exploring the skill tree and stuff. So.
Yeah, and it does suffer a little bit from a little bit of, well, I'll just call Far Cry syndrome, where there are like certain things that you're just going to repeat over and over again. Like you'll see a statue and you'll go, oh, I have to do this thing now with this.
A lot of the mechanics are repeated throughout the whole game,
Yeah.
Which does get repetitive.
Yeah, but that is just an unfortunate normality in a lot of these games. I mean, Final Fantasy 6 or 7, I should say, is littered with them too. So, what else do I have to say? I like that you can switch your characters as soon as you start a mission. You get your character select screen. You get to pick your characters from there and pick. I think that's very convenient. I don't have to like go through a menu and like change it out every time. It's just presented to me like, hey, you're starting this mission. Who do you want to bring? That's great.
I like that the companions have their own gear and their own skill trees, even though they're like kind of baby skill trees. It's cool that people are gonna hate this, but it's got that like Call of Duty philosophy of like you always have something happening to keep you entertained if you're looking for progression. So like you're leveling, but also when you're not leveling, your companions are leveling. So there's always like some decision to be making, and kind of tooling for builds and stuff like that. So that definitely scratched
baby builds for them too.
Yeah,
which is nice because like I had, for example, to use an early character, the mage you have in the beginning of the game. Most of these characters will have 5 abilities, and you can only equip 3 of them.
Yep.
And then, to my knowledge, you only really have enough points to like make 2 of them really good. And so you have to make that decision. And so, in order to make sure I had healing, even though I didn't end up needing it, I did spec her in healing at one point, and then I can't remember what the other move was now. I gave her, but I made sure to give her a damage move. Some characters have buffs, some have debuffs and stuff like that. There are a pretty decent amount of choices. Nothing super complicated. You'll figure it out really easy, but it allows you to kind of tweak the way you play as well, because there's a lot of times I was just making them combo their attack moves with me to just burn something down as fast as I could, especially like bigger like elite style enemies. Yeah. I don't know if I have a whole lot more. I think my experience was pretty enjoyable. I don't love this game, like I said. I think the story and the characters are kind of bleh. And so, honestly, the only thing keeping me going is it kind of scratches an itch of just completing objectives and moving forward for me. And I like it for that. I think it does that part well. So
it definitely was scratching an itch for me. I didn't realize I've just been missing a third-person action RPG experience. And so when I was playing, I was like, I want to be playing a game like this right now. So yeah, it was kind of weird.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's all I got.
All right, I'll hop in. So yeah, going into this game, I was excited to finally try it. I almost bought it, and then I saw a lot of the reception, and I kind of was like, I'll wait for it to go on sale. Apparently, I didn't have to wait that long because it just came out on PlayStation Plus.
I had no intention of ever playing it.
In 4 months, which is kind of wild. So the game undersold. I know people got laid off. I know that the person who ran the project left. So all terrible signs. And then you have game journalists praising the game and giving it 9s, saying it's the best thing ever, blah, blah, blah. Then you got people who are alternative to the game journalists, saying that, it sucks, it's horrible. Some people are in the middle of the road. A lot of people are upset and saying the game's woke and has, some progressive social stuff in the game, which it definitely does. And they won't play it because of that. And you're the customer. I'll never tell you how to spend your money. But so yeah, I was like, when I heard it was coming out on PlayStation Plus, I was like, oh fuck, I finally get to play it. And I played it, I beat it, and overall, just real quick, I liked it. I didn't love it, but I liked it. But there's definitely problems. So yeah, I don't even know where to. Well, I'll get this out of the way because I can't talk about it in detail. I think the story is almost serviceable. It's fine. It's a fine story. It's a little boring. And your ending is going to vary. I don't know if that's a spoiler or not. There's different endings.
I know it's pretty bad anyways.
My ending wasn't great. It was kind of anticlimactic.
Did they talk to each other very gently at the end?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. And this game, when they were planning on, when BioWare's like, we got to make a game that's going to make everybody happy. We got to do something that's like really going to make us some money because we're kind of floundering right now. They decided they had to follow very closely a lot of the design decisions that were in Mass Effect 2, which in theory is great because Mass Effect 2 is fantastic.
Phenomenal game.
Great game. And so they followed a lot of the philosophy of that game in terms of like how companions work and how companions will affect your ending. And I got a pretty similar ending to my Mass Effect 2 ending.
Yeah, you kind of spit through that game too, so.
Yeah. But that's a great game. So yeah, the story is okay. I don't think it was as bad as some people say, but I also didn't think it was like great. So maybe I'll just be boring and go like, it's fine.
I mean, I agree. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just like, but the problem I have is like, when I first started playing the game, I'm like, this is a fucking AAA game. I forgot that. I forgot this is like a AAA expensive game because it's cinematically great to look at. I was actually surprised by like a lot of the set pieces and story elements that are playing out are done in ways that feel super cinematic. I was like, oh, the choreography is actually pretty good in this. I was not expecting that. I thought it was going to be mostly just people standing around and you stare at their face while they talk. But there's like full-on fight scenes happening, dragons flying in, doing crazy shit while you're playing or in cinematics. I was like, they actually put a lot of work into this. Even if the story's kind of meh.
It feels pretty well polished.
I wasn't bored watching the cinematics. They put work into it. So it feels very, very cinematic, which is cool. And then the other thing that I kind of am like whatever on is I like in gameplay the companions and what they offer. I don't necessarily love any of the companions. I didn't really even like any of the companions that much. I did like Asan, the little griffin. Did you run into that yet? Okay. That thing was cool. And Lucanus I thought was pretty cool. A little cliche, but feels kind of cool.
I have every member. So.
I like the thing that is plaguing him in the story. You have to play it to know what I'm talking about. But yeah, other than that, the characters, both in their designs, and I am not a huge fan of the artistic style of the game, but both their designs and their dialogue and personalities, they all feel like they're written by the same person who has problems writing different characters confidently. They all feel like soft archetypes of things you expect, but yeah, it's hard to talk about in detail.
There's
But
one character you get. I won't say their name or what they look like or anything like that, but
Uh-huh.
they have such minimal dialogue and no personality. It's so weird.
that's a couple of them. But yeah, unless you just like really love this game, I don't think most people are going to be like super in love with the characters. It doesn't have like the Mass Effect thing where you're like, oh, I really like that dude, I really like that dude, that guy's fucking awesome. Like it doesn't have that, in my opinion. Maybe you're different. That's fine. So yeah, that was a hang up, and then
Alien, sorry.
true. And in the game too, where like you can romance people and stuff like that, I was just like, I don't fucking care.
I never concluded any of those, but I did start it, and if that's flirting, holy crap.
Whoa, I shut this door. Yeah, I agree with that. I agree that like that all the flirting was like really cheesy.
Well, and then the responses to it, there's like, oh, thank you.
Yeah, it's. I think a lot of games that do romance though, like a lot of the writing's super fucking cheesy.
Sure, but
It
I'd
reminds me of,
rather
like an
just
HBO
be
show.
full blown cheesy than like is dead. As
Yeah.
this one feels.
Yeah. And then another kind of iffy complaint when it comes to story and stuff like that is like the writing suffers from what I was suspecting, but not as bad as people said. The writing for like dialogue is sometimes I thought was like kind of good. There's a couple conversations where I'm like, I kind of like how this is going. Most of it is okay, and sometimes, pretty often, it's what I call Blue's Clues writing. It's like really simple shit that I'm just like, man, I can't believe somebody got paid to write this. That sucks. It's just like really like lays it out for you in the most simplistic. It's like the writing thinks you're a fucking baby. And I hate that in any game. Like, I can't talk specifically about it, but like, yeah, it's just, I would just hear dialogue and go, okay, whatever. Yeah, so all that stuff out of the way. Even though stylistically the game does have a realistic to cartoony look to it, I think graphically, take the style and throw it out the window. The graphics are actually really good.
Oh, yeah.
I was actually really impressed. The hair physics are really good. The skin texturing, the lighting,
My flowing locks went everywhere.
foliage, like everything in the game's like really AAA looking. I was like, this, like, I don't know why. I just forgot. This is like an expensive AAA game, and it looks like it.
Yeah.
I just don't like the style much. But I also thought it was like not as bad as I thought it was going to be. I don't like what they did with, what are they called? Kunari?
Yeah.
I don't like the redesign of them. I know a lot of people defended it. I don't like it. You look at the older ones, they look like really intense, like demons almost. And in this, like, they just kind of look like people with horns.
Yeah.
So it kind of like softened the world, I guess. It just looks a little too cartoony. But being nuanced about it, the graphics themselves are really good. The dragons looked really good, in my opinion. The fire, everything in the game visually looks really good. The music's okay. I wasn't super in love with it, but it was fine. Let's see. Combat I actually really liked. It's not super complex, but it's not overly simplistic. I liked that it was kind of like simple to get in there, just hit the button and start attacking or whatever, but then like you have all these moves you can execute that are on cooldown, so it's not mindless. Like you are actually, thinking about like, oh, maybe I should slow that dude down, or I need to heal, or hit that fucking dude with the thing he's weak to. Like there's enjoyment in the combat, which is very important. If I did not like the combat in this game, I probably wouldn't have beaten it.
I'm also going to throw in with the combat thing as well, because it just dawned on me. There's been multiple times in this channel where like complaints of like overdoing UI prompts is obnoxious. So like Suicide Squad is a huge example of that, right? This game has a very subtle, like old school, like Spider-Man almost. Like it's just white, yellow, red, real subtle. It's not like huge and in the way. I didn't hate it.
Yeah, I agree with that. So yeah, combat I thought was fun. And if you're curious, I played the like rogue class, and I spec'd into the ones in the top left. It goes more into like the dagger, like dodging around corrosive stuff. which was pretty fun. I did dabble a bit in I think it's called Saboteur tree, where you start using contraptions, and the ult, you like pull out a gun and start shooting. It's neat because it felt completely different than what I did use originally, but I didn't like it. I didn't like having to aim a gun while it just shot and I just had to aim. I felt like less involved with it, I guess. But with the tree that I did go through, he had this cool move where like you basically with your weapons just like teleport around and like do a bunch of corrosive damage to everybody, and that felt really good. And this is nowhere near as good as Path of Exile, but I was actually really impressed with the skill tree. It was way bigger than I was expecting, and I liked that it wanted you to explore it. I started at first just kind of building towards the subclass that I wanted to activate once you hit level 20, but I think it's level 10, 20?
Well, there's a part of it at before 20, and then when you get in there, you hit another wall. I can't.
Yeah, and then there's another wall after that. It's like 30 that you have to hit. But anyway, I was building towards that at first when I had like minimal skill points to put in there. But once I had got there and hit that wall, I started building in the skill tree towards the other class. And I started getting perks that are all the way over on the other side of the skill tree that helped the build I had. And I was like, that's pretty cool. In fact, if I can just say it, my favorite thing in this whole fucking game was the skill tree. It's pretty decent. It's not even like okay. Like I liked it. It actually offered way more than like a lot of games do when it comes to skill trees. I was very surprised by that. So combat with a pretty decent skill tree was a lot of fun. It was my favorite thing in the game, was just grinding and playing through to get more things unlocked that actually felt like I was building a character. And I love that the companions also had their own skill trees, and that they were characters that I got to put my touch on. So that was a lot of fun. Really dug that. So yeah, combat's good. Not amazing, but it's solid. It's a good system. It works, and there's stuff to do in it. Skill trees are good. Weapons and armors all kind of feel like, you know, as you progress, you're just going to like get the better one, and you're just going to keep like putting on the newest thing. You are going to start paying attention to light, medium, and heavy though. Like I had certain perks that only worked if I had medium armor on, which is cool. So I was playing like a rogue character. And so I started paying attention to that, but I don't know. I feel like it could have been deeper when it came to gear. I do like that you can upgrade it though and change things out when it comes to.
The rarity goes up to you unlock more substats too.
Yeah. So that was cool, but yeah, I don't know. There's something about it that just didn't feel as exciting. I was like never super excited when I got like armor. I think it's maybe because like I wasn't even having issues with like lower end armor for a while, so like I was like, I don't really need it. But of course, because it has its own things going on with it, I would switch it out. But
yeah, for me, once I leaned into a certain type, I just stopped paying attention to the rest of the armor because I had the stat in every single slot at that point, and I was just hoping to get another, because when you get dupes, they level up. So
yeah, I think which I did like that happened. But yeah, I feel like if they maybe reworked how gear works, weapons, armor, stuff like that, I possibly could have got like kind of addicted to this game because I really like the skill tree, I really like the combat. The graphics are good. The world is okay. It's a very linear feeling, even when you do have choices of paths you can go. It basically is like a big map with a bunch of different hallways to walk down. It feels very much like a God of War or like I said, Godfall, something like that. So not the best in its design, especially I'm bringing up God of War, which I love what they did in God of War when it came to the map design, but theirs feels a little more inspired by like a Dark Souls in terms of pathing, and they do some really interesting things that I still won't spoil with changing things up when it came to their pathing. This game doesn't do that. It's just like base minimum, hallways all over the place. That's it. There's a couple secrets to find, couple areas to do certain things to get and grab secret stuff, but it never felt like exciting to explore to me. It felt I almost like wished it was just straight linear because I don't have to waste time like running around these areas. I was never like super into the exploration of the game. The locations are varied though. I'll give them that. A lot of cool different locations. A lot of cool set pieces. A lot of seemingly reskinned enemy types. It feels like they didn't really seem that different after a while. Even when like visually they look different, I felt like it was just like the same like skeleton, but just different skin,
the
different
point of the
ability.
game I was at, I feel like I was only fighting one enemy type anyways for
Yeah,
eternity. So.
yeah. So they could have done better on that. So yeah, that was cool. Or not cool. What else do I got? Boss fights were sometimes kind of challenging feeling, which was surprising, but kind of like repetitive. Like once you got like a couple of their moves down, it was just that on repeat constantly. There wasn't a whole lot of variables to it. And then one fight is just like, fight this dude. Oh, now you beat him. Well, here's a second one. And I'm like, okay. This just continues on, huh? So that could have been better.
Yeah, I think the worst thing I ran into boss wise was just a very aggressive guy with unblockable moves constantly. So I just had to nonstop dodge, and so it just made the fight drag out.
Yeah. What else can I touch on? I guess I could talk about the stuff that people get upset about when it comes to the woke stuff. I don't really want to talk about it because I don't care, but people might be interested in what I think of it. So, you can be non-binary in this game. You can also be trans in this game. You can
Kind of have to like
be
go out
with
of your way to beat the second one there, but
yeah. Well, I mean, you have to choose any of them though, and you don't have to choose them.
sure. I'm just saying like the character creator gives you the first like three,
Yeah.
and then
There-
there's a function you do later in the game to make the other decisions. So.
Yeah, and I actually picked that because I want to see what happened. So my character was technically trans, which was interesting, but it didn't really play out much in the story as much as I thought it would. So,
Say just a personal choice thing.
yeah, yeah. When it comes to like non-binary stuff and like the trans stuff, it is all choices in the game. You don't have to do it. So if you, for some reason, don't like seeing that in the game, don't pick it. There is a non-binary character in the game. My complaint about that character has nothing to do with the non-binary aspect of the character. It's that the writing for that character I thought was poor. And there is a dialogue about being non-binary that I thought was kind of Blue's Clues writing. But the subject itself didn't bother me. I don't care. But I get a lot of people don't want to see it in their games or whatever. BioWare decided to put that in their game. I think the way they did it was pretty minimal, and you have to, outside of if you're doing like specific quests, when it comes to your character, you have to choose to even engage with that stuff. So from the outside, if you didn't play the game, it's gonna look like, oh, it's the game's gonna preach to me or whatever about something. I would just tell you that you have to choose most of the time to even have to engage with any of that stuff. Like I said, me personally, I don't care about it, but I know people do. So, and to each their own when it comes to what games you purchase for whatever reason, I don't care. People can buy games or not buy games for whatever reason they want. But I was largely like unoffended by any of that stuff that people would call woke. I didn't care, but I do think some of the topics were handled in ways that felt a little childish. But that is not just those subjects. It's the whole game that would happen sometimes when it came to the writing. So that's the writers for me and an issue with them. So, but yeah, not a big deal for me. I think that's basically everything. Companions system is cool. You can do romance or whatever. I didn't care about that. But I did do a little bit of it, and I do agree. I think a lot of the flirting and the dialogue is like not good. But I think a lot of games aren't great.
Yeah, not that I'm out meeting people, but if anyone ever talked to me like that, I'm like, you're an alien.
Yeah. Yeah. If somebody talked to me like that, I would be like, something might have happened to you where like a brick hit your head at some point. Maybe we shouldn't be talking. Because like you're talking to me like you're like a 12-year-old or something. It's
Yeah.
weird. I don't think I have anything else.
Okay.
The game is pretty solid gameplay wise. I enjoyed myself. I beat it. I might play it again. It was pretty fun.
You can actually try to get a good ending because it sounds like you didn't get one.
I don't know if I got a good or bad. There's multiple endings. My ending just was like, I was like, it ended. I was like, that it? And like the credits started. I was like, okay. And there's one ending where like, I guess you have like a choice or something and you got to like really work for that. But I did not do that. So, but yeah, Dragon Age The Veilguard, I thought was a pretty solid AAA action RPG with weak writing and a story that was meh. That's where I'm at.
Yeah.
You got anything else you want to say on Dragon Age?
I mean, I'm glad I got to try it because I was very adamant about not buying it. Not for a lot of the reasons other people did, as much as like, my idea for Dragon Age would be to go back to being, something like a Baldur's Gate.
This is not the Dragon Age I want.
Yeah.
But as a action RPG though, if it was its own IP, it'd be like, yeah, this is kind of a solid game.
Given the opportunity to play it, having enough fun with it, I still struggle with calling it Dragon Age, but as a video game, it's enjoyable. So.
It's better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
And I was open to playing it until I saw all the feedback. I was like, oh, people really fucking hate this game. And even with that, going into it, I was like, it's probably not going to be very good. And I started playing, I'm like, it's kind of fun.
I'll say at this point, maybe this is just getting older as well. When I see feedback on a game, unless it's tech stuff that I need to pay attention to, I kind of just stop paying attention to people. So,
yeah.
Which is not fair, I guess, in some regards. But
yeah, I mean, I pay
kind of exhausting. So.
I pay attention to all the different parameters when it comes to people on YouTube, real life people, journalists, all that shit. Just because I like to get an amalgamation of where it is at when it comes to the community and gaming. But it typically doesn't make my opinion. I already have like my suspicions, and if I see enough things leaning into certain things, I'm like. Like I said, I was going to wait for a sale on this game, but I didn't have to. Sure. So, and it played great on a controller, so kind of worked out.
Definitely made for one.
Yeah, it felt good on controller. So, had a good snap when it came to bow and arrow stuff, which I didn't talk about at all. But my character did a lot of flipping around and stabbing and stuff, and then also had a bow and arrow, which was cool because I could shoot people from a distance. And there's a whole part of the skill tree that allows you to really get into the bow and arrow stuff, which I should have done because I kind of enjoyed it, but I didn't. So
yeah, I put a pretty decent amount of points into my Captain America throw.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything else?
No.
All right, recommendations. I would recommend this loosely if you are open-minded enough to take this recommendation. If you like Dragon Age and this game doesn't feel like an abomination to you by looking at it, you may appreciate the lore and the return of characters and names that have been mentioned in Dragon Age before being named again, like locations, cities, stuff like that.
Very fan servicey.
Yes, it's very fan servicey, but you may appreciate it. But if you're somebody who is convinced that this is not Dragon Age, this is an abomination to the series, I'm not going to recommend it to you unless you can play it on PlayStation Plus and you didn't buy it full price. Check it out. Just check it out and see if you like it. You can uninstall it if you don't like it.
True.
If you're somebody looking for a AAA action RPG, because there hasn't been any lately for some reason, or like you beat them all, play this. I think it's pretty fun when it comes to like straight up mechanics. Combat could be deeper, but I think the skill tree is actually way more deeper than I was expecting. So you might be able to appreciate that. If you like fantasy games, I would recommend it to you. You don't have to be like hard into Dragon Age, just fantasy stuff. You might dig it. If you like companion systems and romancing characters, you can do that if you want to. If you like choices in dialogue and choices in game, even though people tell me the choices in this game don't really matter, you can choose how you speak to people.
I say it's still adding your flair to your playthrough. So
yeah, which is people enjoy like feeling like they're a part of the conversation. I want to be more aggressive. I want to be like, oh, I get you. Yeah, different ways to go about the conversation. Different people get to represent how they feel in the conversation. It's a good thing. Any other recommendations? Nothing.
No.
You got nothing. Okay. Yeah, it's a solid action RPG. There's the recommendation. Loosely, if you like Dragon Age and you're open-minded to not Dragon Age, calling itself Dragon Age. Okay, let's jump into grades. You went first, so I grade first?
Yes.
This is way higher than I thought I was going to go, but I'm going to go there. I'm going to give it a strong B+. It's not. It would be an A- if I liked the story, and it would be an A if I really liked the story or the characters. But that was the biggest weakness of the game: is the writing, the characters, and the story, which is serviceable. Characters are okay to not great, and writing is okay to really bad. But the rest of the game, I think, is completely solid, and you could spend your time on way worse games. I actually had a lot of fun playing this game. So, although it does get repetitive. But yeah, B+, strong B+.
Yeah, well, I mean, if I'm viewing like C as the middle of the road, I don't necessarily feel that way about this game. I think some aspects of the game are that, but
It's just straight up passing. So
I think the game is fun to play. So I have a handful of gripes, but none of them are like strong. So I guess I'm feeling probably a B-. I definitely think there's a lot of room to improve to make it a better game. It could have some more complex systems, for example. The writing could be a hell of a lot better. The characters could be more interesting. I would actually care less about the story if the characters are just more interesting.
Sure. Well, the story is just like serviceable.
Yeah.
It just kind of gets things going. So yeah, if the characters had charm to them,
Yeah.
that would really enrich the experience.
But I think the combat is, engaging enough. It's not God of War, but it's not bad either. So, and there's multiple classes to play in the game. So there's a lot of choice. You can really kind of figure out like what kind of play style you want to do. Regardless of how, complex or simple you might feel it to be. But, yeah. And I'm going to keep it installed because I do intend on beating it. That is that.
Yeah, I haven't uninstalled it because I kind of want to play a different class. I don't know if I'd beat it again, but I might try and just play it again, see how I feel. So maybe get a better ending. But I got so many games to play too that I've beaten it. I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
It was weird in 1 month to actually have beaten 2 games. Which is a reminder. We played Monster Hunter Wilds. We'll be reviewing that tomorrow. So stay tuned for that for Game of the Month. But you have anything else to say?
No, that's been a lot of talking.
Yeah, I knew we would talk about this for a while. There's a lot to cover. So let us know in the comments what do you guys think about Dragon Age The Veilguard. Honest opinions. No one's wrong.
Sure.
What do you feel about this game? Did you play it? Did you not play it? If you didn't play it, why didn't you play it? Let me know. I know a lot of people chose not to play this game. And if you did play it, what did you think of it? Maybe you're somebody who is reluctant to play it that did play it. Did it change your mind, or did it just kind of solidify the things you're worried about? And if there's things about the game that you liked, what did you like about it? What did you think of the story? What did you think about the writing? What did you think about the companions? Did you like it? I've heard people say that they thought the story was great. So that's it, or that's cool. That's to each their own. And yeah, favorite things about the game, worst things about the game, and what do you want from Dragon Age moving forward? Do you want more of this? Do you want them to return to the OG kind of situation? Or, what do you want from Dragon Age? And do you think this would have been a better game as a separate IP? Let me know everything you think about in the comments below when it comes to Dragon Age The Veilguard and all the other games we talked about. Thanks for watching, guys. Thank you for joining me for this conversation, Chevy. I've been Seth, and until the next episode, which will be Game of the Month for Monster Hunter Wilds, have a good one, guys, and take it easy.